Noah Thompson's life changed forever the night his alien neighbor entered mating season. The rhythmic thumping from next door jolted him awake, his heart racing as he realized the sound wasn't part of his dream. He'd only moved into New Terra City's pioneering Interspecies apartment complex that afternoon, and already things were getting weird. At 28, Noah had seen his fair share of strange occurrences on this colonized exoplanet, but nothing prepared him for what awaited beyond his neighbor's door. Concern overrode his initial hesitation as the thumping intensified. He threw on a robe and ventured into the hallway. "Hello, is everything all right in there?" Noah called out, knocking firmly. The door swung open, revealing a sight that seared itself into Noah's memory. His neighbor, Prylar, stood before him, her violet skin glistening with sweat, chest heaving as she struggled to catch her breath. The female Chalnoth's forearms trembled, gripping the doorframe for support. "Help? Please?" Prylar gasped, her silver eyes wide with desperation. Noah stepped inside, taking in the chaos of the apartment. Exercise equipment lay scattered about, some still vibrating. Prylar stumbled to a chair, collapsing into it with a groan. "I'm in my mating cycle," she explained between labored breaths. "It happens every 5 years, lasts 2 weeks. Without proper stimulation, I could die." Noah's mind reeled. He'd heard about the Chalnoth's unique biology during the apartment's orientation, but this was beyond anything he'd imagined. As one of only 10 Chalnoth on the planet, part of a cultural exchange program, Prylar's well-being suddenly felt like an interstellar incident waiting to happen. "Have you tried contacting the medical center?" Noah asked, fumbling for his comm device. Prylar shook her head. "Human medical technology isn't compatible. In the devices they provided," she gestured to the equipment strewn about, "they're not enough." The gravity of the situation hit Noah like a freight train. Here he was, a simple data analyst, suddenly thrust into a potential diplomatic crisis. If Prylar died because of insufficient care during her mating cycle, it could jeopardize the entire human Chalnoth alliance. "What about interspecies mating?" Noah suggested, the words feeling foreign on his tongue. Prylar's eyes widened. "It's never been attempted between humans and Chalnoth. The physiological differences. But maybe..." Noah's fingers flew across his comm device, searching for help. He found the contact information for Dr. Elias Verne, the lead xenobiologist at New Terra University. If anyone could handle this situation, it would be him. Within the hour, Dr. Verne arrived, his hover car screeching to a halt outside the complex. The scientist burst into Prylar's apartment, medical kit in hand, eyes alight with scientific curiosity. "This is unprecedented," Dr. Verne declared after examining Prylar. "The potential for scientific breakthrough is enormous. Mr. Thompson, are you willing to participate in an experimental mating program? It could save Prylar's life and advance our understanding of Chalnoth biology immeasurably." Noah looked from the eager scientist to his alien neighbor, still trembling with need. The weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders. This wasn't just about helping a neighbor or advancing science. It was about the future of human-Chalnoth relations. "I'll do it," Noah said, his voice steadier than he felt. As Dr. Verne began setting up monitoring equipment in both apartments, Noah steeled himself for what lay ahead. The challenges were daunting. Physiological differences, unknown risks, the sheer intensity of Chalnoth mating. But as he watched Prylar's grateful smile, he knew he'd made the right choice. Little did Noah know, this was just the beginning of a 2-week odyssey that would push him to his limits, test the boundaries of interspecies compatibility, and potentially reshape the future of human-alien relations forever. Noah took a deep breath as Dr. Verne finished setting up the last of the monitoring equipment. The scientist's eyes gleamed with excitement, a stark contrast to the nervous energy radiating from both Noah and Prylar. "All right, let's begin," Dr. Verne said, adjusting his glasses. "Mr. Thompson, please approach Prylar slowly. We'll start with simple physical contact and work our way up from there." Noah nodded, his heart pounding as he stepped towards his alien neighbor. Prylar's violet skin glistened with a sheen of sweat, her forearms trembling slightly as she reached out to him. The moment their skin made contact, Noah felt a jolt of electricity course through his body. Prylar let out a soft gasp, her silver eyes widening. For a moment, hope flared in Noah's chest, but as they continued, it became clear that something was wrong. "Ow!" Noah yelped, pulling back his hand. Where their skin had touched, an angry red welt was forming. Pryler looked equally distressed, her violet skin darkening to a deep indigo where Noah had made contact. Dr. Verne rushed forward, scanner in hand. "Fascinating," he muttered, examining both Noah and Pryler. "It seems there's a chemical reaction occurring between your epidermal layers. This is unexpected, but not entirely surprising, given the vast differences in your physiologies." Over the next hour, they attempted various forms of contact, each ending in discomfort or pain for both parties. Pryler's condition showed no signs of improvement. If anything, she seemed to be getting worse. "This isn't working," Dr. Verne said, frowning at his datapad. "We need to try something else. Mr. Thompson, I think we need to outfit you with protective gear." Within the hour, Noah found himself encased in a skin-tight suit that covered him from neck to toe. The material was unlike anything he'd ever felt before. Flexible, yet incredibly durable. "This suit will protect you from any adverse reactions," Dr. Verne explained. "It's also equipped with sensors that will provide us with real-time data on your vital signs and physiological responses." Protected by the suit, Noah and Pryler attempted intimacy once more. While the pain and discomfort were no longer an issue, their efforts remained fruitless. Pryler's body temperature continued to rise, and her skin took on an alarming blue hue. "It's not enough," Pryler gasped, her voice weak. "I can feel my body shutting down. Human stimulation alone isn't sufficient to satisfy the mating cycle." Dr. Verne's face was grim as he reviewed the latest data. "We need to change our approach. I'm calling in reinforcements." The reinforcements arrived in the form of Dr. Liana Powell, a xenobiochemist with piercing green eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. After a quick briefing, she got to work, taking samples from both Noah and Pryler. "I think I can develop a synthetic hormone compound that could simulate the effects of Chalnoth mating pheromones," Dr. Powell explained as she worked. "It's risky, but at this point, it might be our best option." While Dr. Powell focused on creating the compound, Noah continued his attempts to help Pryler under Dr. Verne's guidance. They explored non-penetrative methods of stimulation, with Pryler providing instructions as best she could through her discomfort. Try stroking the underside of my third arm," Pryler directed, her voice strained. Noah complied, running his gloved hand along the indicated area. Pryler shuddered, a soft trill escaping her lips. It was an improvement, but still not enough to fully alleviate her symptoms. As days passed, Noah began to notice strange changes in himself. Colors seemed more vivid, sounds clearer. He found himself able to work for hours without tiring. "Fascinating," Dr. Verne said when Noah reported these changes. "It seems prolonged exposure to Chalnoth pheromones is having an effect on your physiology. This could have significant implications for human-Chalnoth interactions." Their efforts to help Pryler took on a new urgency when Ambassador Thrax arrived. The senior Chalnoth representative's normally stoic face was creased with worry as he surveyed the scene. "This situation is concerning," Thrax said, his deep voice resonating through the apartment. "If we cannot find a solution, it could have serious repercussions for our alliance with humans." Dr. Verne, ever the scientist, saw an opportunity. "Ambassador, with your permission, I'd like to expand our experiment. We could screen for human volunteers with genetic markers that might be more compatible with Chalnoth biology." As they discussed the possibilities, Dr. Powell burst into the room, a vial of iridescent liquid in her hand. "It's ready," she announced. "The synthetic hormone compound is complete." A tense silence fell over the room. The compound was untested, its effects unknown. Using it could save Pryler's life, or put her in even greater danger. Before they could decide, Pryler's body went rigid, her eyes rolling back as she began to seize. Alarms blared from the monitoring equipment, signaling that her body was beginning to shut down. Noah looked from the seizing Chalnoth to the vial in Dr. Powell's hand, then to the worried faces of Dr. Verne and Ambassador Thrax. Time was running out, and they needed to make a decision. The fate of Pryler, and possibly the future of human-Chalnoth relations, hung in the balance. Noah looked from the seizing Chalnoth to the vial in Dr. Powell's hand, then to the worried faces of Dr. Verne and Ambassador Thrax. Time was running out, and they needed to make a decision. "We have to try it," Noah said, his voice firm despite his racing heart. "It's our only chance." Dr. Verne nodded grimly. "Agreed. Dr. Powell, administer the compound." With steady hands, Dr. Powell approached Pryler's convulsing form. She inserted the needle into one of Pryler's upper arms, injecting the iridescent liquid. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Pryler's body went rigid, her back arching off the bed. "Hold her down!" Dr. Verne shouted. Noah, still wearing his protective suit, grasped Pryler's shoulders, trying to keep her steady. Her skin, already an alarming blue, began to darken to a deep purple. The change spread across her body like ink in water. "What's happening?" Ambassador Thrax demanded, his normally stoic voice tinged with panic. Dr. Powell's eyes were glued to her monitoring equipment. "Her body is rejecting the compound. We need to stabilize her, or we'll lose her." For hours they worked tirelessly. Noah held Pryler as she thrashed, her strength nearly overwhelming even his suited form. Dr. Verne and Dr. Powell moved in a choreographed dance, adjusting medication doses, monitoring vital signs, and attempting to counteract the violent reaction. Slowly, agonizingly, Pryler's convulsions began to subside. The purple hue of her skin gradually lightened, returning to its natural violet. Noah felt her muscles relax under his hands. "It's working," Dr. Powell breathed, relief evident in her voice. "Her vitals are stabilizing." Noah stepped back, his muscles aching from the prolonged effort. He watched as Pryler's eyes fluttered open, focusing on him with recognition. "Noah," she murmured, her voice weak but steady. "Thank you." Dr. Verne approached, scanner in hand. "The synthetic hormone compound appears to be partially effective," he announced. "It's alleviating some of her symptoms, but—" He trailed off, looking at Noah. Noah understood immediately. "She still needs physical stimulation to complete the cycle," he finished. Pryler nodded, a mix of gratitude and embarrassment on her face. "I'm sorry to ask this of you, Noah, but—" "Don't apologize," Noah interrupted gently. "We're in this together now." As Noah resumed his attempts to satisfy Pryler's needs, he noticed a change. The synthetic hormones seemed to have increased her responsiveness to his touch. Her skin flushed a deeper violet where his gloved hands made contact, and she let out soft trills of pleasure. Dr. Verne watched the proceedings with scientific interest, occasionally making notes on his datapad. Suddenly, his eyes widened. "Noah, how are you feeling?" Noah paused, taking stock of his body. "I feel strong, like I could run a marathon without breaking a sweat, and everything seems brighter, clearer somehow." Dr. Powell approached with her scanner. "Fascinating," she muttered. "Your muscle density has increased by 15%, and your neural activity is off the charts. It seems the prolonged exposure to Chalnoth pheromones and the synthetic compound is affecting your physiology." As they discussed Noah's unexpected changes, Ambassador Thrax entered the room, his face grave. "I've contacted the Chalnoth High Council," he announced. "They're sending Dr. Zaxalith, our foremost xenobiologist, to assist with the situation." The atmosphere in the room shifted. Dr. Verne's excitement at the scientific implications was palpable, but Noah felt a twinge of unease. He'd grown protective of Pryler over the past few days, and the idea of a new expert taking over her care made him uncomfortable. Dr. Zaxalith arrived within hours, his hover transport touching down outside the apartment complex with a soft hum. He strode into the room, his tall, imposing figure drawing all eyes. In his forearms, he carried an array of advanced Chalnoth medical equipment. "I will take over from here," Dr. Zaxalith announced without preamble, his voice deep and authoritative. "Your human methods are crude and potentially dangerous." Dr. Verne bristled at the dismissal. "With all due respect, Dr. Zaxalith, we've made significant progress." "Progress?" Dr. Zaxalith scoffed. "You've triggered a physiological change in a human and barely managed to stabilize Officer Pryler. This situation requires Chalnoth expertise." As the two scientists argued, Noah felt a strange sensation building within him. His skin tingled, and he became acutely aware of Pryler's presence. He turned to her, noticing her eyes had taken on a glassy, unfocused look. "Dr. Verne," Noah called out, his voice strained. "Something's happening." All eyes turned to Pryler. Her body had gone rigid, and she was emitting a low, melodic hum. Suddenly, the air filled with an intoxicating scent, sweet and musky. "Pheromones," Dr. Zaxelith gasped. "She's entered the final stage of her mating cycle. We must contain this immediately." But it was too late. Noah felt the pheromones hit him like a physical force, igniting every nerve in his body. His vision narrowed until all he could see was Pryler. All he could think about was completing their mating. Dr. Verne and Dr. Powell scrambled to action, ushering Ambassador Thrax and Dr. Zaxelith out of the room. "We need to set up a quarantine perimeter," Dr. Powell shouted over the rising chaos. "If these pheromones spread to the general population—" Her words were cut off as the door sealed shut, leaving Noah alone with Pryler. He approached her, drawn by an irresistible force. As their bodies met, Noah felt a surge of energy unlike anything he'd ever experienced. Outside, alarms began to blare. Dr. Verne's voice came over the intercom, tense and urgent. "Noah, can you hear me? We're working on a neutralizing agent for the pheromones. Try to stay calm and—" Noah barely registered the words. He was lost in a haze of primal instinct, his body moving in perfect synchronization with Pryler's. In some distant part of his mind, he wondered if he'd ever be the same after this, if the changes to his body were permanent. As the mating frenzy intensified, the situation outside spiraled further out of control. Other Chalnoth in the city began to react to Pryler's pheromones, their own mating cycles triggered prematurely. Ambassador Thrax declared a state of emergency, his usually composed demeanor shaken. In the midst of the chaos, Dr. Zaxelith reluctantly turned to the human scientist. "We must work together," he conceded. "This situation is unprecedented in Chalnoth history. If we don't find a solution soon, the consequences could be catastrophic." As the team raced against time to contain the crisis, Noah and Pryler remained locked in their intense mating ritual, oblivious to the growing turmoil beyond their room. The fate of human-Chalnoth relations hung in the balance, dependent on the success of their unlikely alliance. As Noah and Pryler remained locked in their intense mating ritual, the situation outside their quarantined room spiraled into chaos. Dr. Verne, Dr. Powell, and Dr. Zaxelith huddled around a hastily assembled workstation in the apartment complex's lobby, now converted into a makeshift research facility. "We need to contain this now," Dr. Verne said, his eyes fixed on a holographic display showing the spread of Chalnoth pheromones across New Terra. Red dots indicating affected areas multiplied at an alarming rate. Dr. Powell nodded, her fingers flying over a datapad. "I'm analyzing Noah's latest blood samples. There's something unusual here." Dr. Zaxelith leaned in, his four eyes narrowing as he studied the results. "Impossible," he muttered. "The human's physiology has undergone significant alterations." "Not just alterations," Dr. Powell said, excitement creeping into her voice. "Look at this compound his body is producing. It seems to be neutralizing the Chalnoth pheromones." Dr. Verne's eyes widened. "Are you saying we could use Noah's bodily fluids as a base for a neutralizing agent?" Before Dr. Powell could respond, the door burst open. Ambassador Thrax strode in, his usually composed demeanor shaken. "We have a problem," he announced, his deep voice resonating through the room. "The Chalnoth High Council is sending a sterilization team to New Terra." A heavy silence fell over the room. Dr. Zaxelith was the first to break it. "Sterilization? They can't be serious." "I'm afraid they are," Thrax replied grimly. "They plan to use a chemical agent that will render all Chalnoth on the planet permanently infertile. It's their solution to prevent future uncontrolled mating cycles." Dr. Verne stepped forward, his face set with drive. "We can't let that happen. Ambassador, how long do we have?" "The human government has given us 48 hours to find an alternative solution," Thrax said. "After that, they'll have no choice but to allow the sterilization team to proceed." Dr. Powell's datapad beeped, drawing everyone's attention. "We may have a solution," she said. her eyes scanning the new data. But it's risky. She explained her findings about Noah's unique physiology and the neutralizing compound his body was producing. As the team discussed the possibilities and challenges of using Noah as a source for a large-scale neutralizing agent, alarms blared from the monitoring equipment in Pryler's room. Dr. Zaxelith rushed to check on her, returning moments later with a grave expression. Pryler's condition has worsened. Her body is rejecting the synthetic hormone compound. She's entering a comatose state, a survival mechanism when a mating cycle fails to complete. The news hit the team hard. They now faced a dual crisis, neutralizing the spreading pheromones and saving Pryler's life. Time was running out, and the stakes couldn't be higher. As they grappled with these challenges, Noah emerged from Pryler's room, his body glistening with sweat, his eyes wild and unfocused. Dr. Powell approached him cautiously, scanner in hand. "Noah, how do you feel?" she asked, studying the readings on her device. Noah blinked, seeming to come back to himself. "I feel different, stronger, like my senses are heightened." He looked around, taking in the tense atmosphere. "What's happening?" Dr. Verne quickly brought Noah up to speed on the situation. As he listened, Noah's expression shifted from confusion to purpose. "Use me," he said firmly. "Whatever you need to do to stop this crisis, I'm willing." Dr. Zaxelith stepped forward, his tall frame looming over the others. "I have a proposal," he said, his voice low and serious. "We could create a device to amplify and broadcast Noah's neutralizing compound across the affected area. It would use him as a living filter to process and distribute the agent." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Dr. Powell was the first to speak. The strain on Noah's body would be immense. It could result in permanent changes to his physiology, or even death, Noah finished for her. He squared his shoulders. "I understand the risks, but if it's our best chance to save both humans and Chalnoth, I'll do it." With Noah's agreement, the team sprang into action. Dr. Verne and Dr. Powell began modifying Chalnoth medical technology to create the amplification device, while Dr. Zaxelith prepared Noah for the procedure. As they worked, Noah's gaze kept drifting to Pryler's room. "What about her?" he asked Dr. Zaxelith. "Is there anything we can do?" The Chalnoth doctor hesitated. "Her only chance is to complete the mating cycle, but in her current state—" Noah nodded understanding. "Let me try one more time," he said. "Before you hook me up to the device, maybe my changed biology will be more compatible now." Dr. Zaxelith considered for a moment, then nodded. "Very well, but be quick. We don't have much time." As Noah entered Pryler's room, the rest of the team redoubled their efforts on the amplification device. Outside the quarantine zone, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Reports came in of anti-alien protesters gathering, demanding the deportation of all Chalnoth. The human military was mobilizing, preparing for potential conflict. In the heart of the crisis, Noah approached Pryler's still form. He took her hand, feeling the weak pulse beneath her violet skin. "Hold on, Pryler," he whispered. "We're not giving up on you." As Noah began his final attempt to complete Pryler's mating cycle, the fate of two species hung in the balance. The next few hours would determine whether this experimental program would lead to a breakthrough in interspecies relations or plunge New Terra into devastating conflict. As Noah entered Pryler's room, the air grew thick with an otherworldly energy. His skin tingled, every nerve alive with heightened sensation. Approaching Pryler's still form, he felt a surge of power coursing through his veins. "I'm here, Pryler," he whispered, reaching out to touch her hand. The moment their skin made contact, Noah's body reacted with startling intensity. His flesh began to emit a soft, iridescent glow, pulsing in rhythm with his accelerated heartbeat. Heat radiated from his core, and he felt as if he might burst into flames at any moment. With newfound strength, Noah effortlessly lifted Pryler's limp form into his arms. Her weight felt insignificant, like lifting a feather. As he cradled her against his chest, a jolt of energy passed between them, causing Pryler's eyelids to flutter. Outside the room, Dr. Verne's voice crackled over the intercom. "Noah, we're activating the amplification device now. Are you ready?" Noah took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. "Do it," he called out, his voice steady despite the storm of sensations overwhelming his body. A series of bioneural interfaces attached themselves to Noah's glowing skin, creating a web of connections between his body and the device. As the machine hummed to life, Noah felt a pulling sensation, as if something essential was being drawn from the very marrow of his bones. Through the window, he watched in awe as a shimmering field expanded outward from the apartment complex. The air rippled and shimmered, like heat waves rising from sun-baked asphalt. As the field spread, the sounds of chaos from the streets below began to subside. Noah's legs trembled, threatening to give way beneath him. He stumbled to the bed, carefully laying Prylar down before collapsing beside her. His vision blurred, and he could hear the frantic beeping of monitoring equipment in the background. Dr. Powell's concerned voice filled the room. "Noah's vitals are all over the place. We might need to abort if—" "No," Noah interrupted, his voice hoarse. "Keep going. I can handle it." As he spoke, he felt Prylar stir beside him. Her violet skin, which had taken on a sickly pallor, began to regain its vibrant hue. Noah reached out, intertwining his fingers with hers, and felt a spark of connection that transcended the physical. In the makeshift control room, Dr. Zaxalith studied the readings on Prylar's condition with growing excitement. "Remarkable," he murmured. "Her vital signs are stabilizing. Whatever Noah is doing, it's working." The amplification device hummed louder, drawing more of Noah's unique compound into its processes. Noah gritted his teeth against the pain, feeling as if his very essence was being siphoned away. Yet he held fast to Prylar's hand, anchoring himself to her as the world spun around him. Suddenly, shouts and commotion erupted from outside. Dr. Verne rushed to the window, his eyes widening at the scene below. "The protesters," he gasped. "They've breached the quarantine zone." As the neutralizing field washed over the crowd of anti-alien demonstrators, an extraordinary transformation took place. The anger and fear etched on their faces melted away, replaced by expressions of wonder and curiosity. Some reached out to the nearest Chalnoth, no longer in hostility, but in a gesture of peace. Inside the apartment, Prylar's eyes fluttered open, focusing on Noah's face. "Noah," she whispered, her voice weak but clear. "What's happening?" Before Noah could respond, a wave of dizziness washed over him. The room tilted and swayed, and he felt himself slipping into unconsciousness. The last thing he heard was Dr. Powell's urgent voice. "Shut it down! We're losing him!" The bioneural interfaces detached from Noah's skin with a series of soft clicks. As the connection was severed, the shimmering field outside began to dissipate, leaving behind a changed city. Dr. Zaxalith rushed into the room, his four eyes darting between Noah and Prylar. "Fascinating," he muttered, running a scanner over their entwined bodies. "Their physiologies have undergone significant alterations. It's as if they've created a new, hybrid biology." As medical teams swarmed into the room, Prylar instinctively pulled Noah closer, her newly awakened body sensing his distress. A soft, violet glow emanated from her skin, mirroring the iridescence that still lingered on Noah's flesh. Ambassador Thrax entered the chaos of the room, his communicator buzzing with incoming messages. "The High Council wants a full report," he announced, his voice cutting through the commotion. "They're sending a team of scientists to study whatever this is." Dr. Verne nodded, his eyes never leaving the monitors displaying Noah and Prylar's vital signs. "We'll need all the help we can get. What we've witnessed here today, it could change everything we know about human-Chalnoth relations." As Noah and Prylar were carefully separated and prepared for transport to a specialized medical facility, Dr. Powell noticed something strange in the air. She activated her handheld scanner, frowning at the readings. "There's a new chemical compound forming," she said, her voice tinged with both excitement and concern. "It seems to be a hybrid of the Chalnoth pheromones and Noah's neutralizing agent." Dr. Zaxalith peered at the scanner, his expression grave. "We need to track its spread and effects immediately. If it's altering both human and Chalnoth biology—" He left the thought unfinished, but the implications hung heavy in the air. As Noah and Prylar were wheeled out on gurneys, their hands still reaching for each other, the team of scientists exchanged determined looks. They had averted one crisis, but it was clear that their work was nowhere near the end. Outside, the city of New Terra buzzed with a new energy. Humans and Chalnoth mingled freely, their previous animosities forgotten in the wake of their shared experience. As news of the day's events spread, so too did the mysterious hybrid chemical, carried on the winds of change blowing through the city. In the medical transport, Noah's eyes fluttered open briefly. Through the haze of his exhaustion, he saw Prylar on the gurney next to him, her violet skin glowing softly. A small smile played on his lips as he drifted back into unconsciousness, unaware of the profound changes taking place within his body, changes that would soon reshape the future of two species. Species. The implications of their unique bond reverberated through New Terra, setting in motion a chain of events that would reshape the future of human-Chalnoth relations. In the days that followed, Noah and Prylar found themselves under intense scrutiny at the New Terra Advanced Medical Center. The sterile white walls and constant hum of medical equipment became their new reality as teams of scientists worked tirelessly to understand the profound changes occurring within their bodies. Dr. Verne leaned over Noah's bed, his brow furrowed in concentration as he studied the latest test results. "Your cellular structure is unlike anything we've ever seen," he murmured, more to himself than to Noah. "It's as if your DNA has rewritten itself to incorporate Chalnoth genetic markers." Noah flexed his hand, marveling at the newfound strength coursing through his muscles. "I feel different," he said, his voice low. "Stronger, more alive." Across the room, Dr. Powell was examining Prylar, her eyes widening as she observed the Chalnoth's reactions to various stimuli. "Prylar, can you describe what you're experiencing when I introduce these Earth-based proteins?" Prylar's violet skin rippled slightly as she considered the question. "It's strange," she replied, her voice carrying a hint of wonder. "Normally, these substances would cause severe discomfort, but now I feel fine. Better than fine, actually." Dr. Zaxalith entered the room, his four eyes darting between the two patients. "We've detected some intriguing neurological changes in both of you," he announced. "Noah, I'd like you to try something. Focus on Prylar and attempt to convey a simple message without speaking." Noah nodded, turning his attention to Prylar. He concentrated, picturing a single word in his mind. "Hello." To his astonishment, Prylar's eyes widened, and she let out a soft gasp. I heard you," she whispered, her gaze locked with Noah's. "In my mind." The room erupted into a flurry of activity as the scientists rushed to document this new development. Noah and Prylar exchanged looks of amazement, their newfound connection humming between them like an invisible thread. As days turned into weeks, the effects of their hybrid biology became more pronounced. Noah's wounds healed at an astonishing rate, and his physical prowess surpassed even the most elite human athletes. Prylar, once vulnerable to Earth's microbial life, now walked through the facility's gardens without fear of contamination. Their unique case caught the attention of New Terra's highest authorities. In a secure conference room overlooking the city's gleaming skyline, Ambassador Thrax addressed a gathering of human and Chalnoth officials. "What we have witnessed is nothing short of revolutionary," Thrax declared, his imposing form commanding the room's attention. "The success of Noah and Prylar's bonding opens up possibilities we never dreamed possible. I propose we expand the human-Chalnoth mating experiment with their guidance, of course." The room buzzed with excited murmurs, but one voice cut through the noise. "And what of the long-term consequences?" A stern-faced human politician stood, his eyes narrow with suspicion. "How can we be sure this hybrid biology won't lead to unforeseen problems?" Thrax's multiple eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of careful consideration. "Your concerns are valid, Counselor Kane. That is precisely why we must study this phenomenon thoroughly. I suggest we establish a dedicated research facility and recruit volunteers from both species." As the political machinations unfolded, Noah and Prylar found themselves thrust into the role of consultants for the new mating program. They spent hours in meetings, sharing their experiences and insights with eager scientists and nervous volunteers. During one such session, Noah felt a familiar tingle at the base of his skull. He turned to find Prylar already looking at him, a smile playing on her lips. Without a word, they both understood. Somewhere in the city, another human Chalnoth pair had just formed their first telepathic connection. The effects of the neutralizing agent continued to ripple through New Terra's population. Humans and Chalnoth, who had once viewed each other with suspicion, now found themselves drawn together, eager to learn and share. Cultural festivals sprang up across the city, celebrating the blending of two worlds. In a bustling market square, a human chef worked side by side with a Chalnoth nutritionist, creating fusion dishes that tantalized both species' palates. Nearby, a group of children, human and Chalnoth alike, played a new game that combined elements from both cultures. Yet, as with any great change, there were those who resisted. Victor Kane, the politician who had voiced his concerns during the council meeting, began to gather followers. His message of human purity resonated with those who feared the rapid pace of change. In a dimly lit basement, Kane addressed a group of ardent supporters. "They call it progress," he spat, his voice dripping with disdain. "But I call it the death of humanity. We must act now before it's too late." As tensions simmered beneath the surface of New Terra's apparent harmony, a new opportunity arose. Ambassador Thrax called Noah and Pryler to his office, his excitement palpable. "We've discovered a new habitable planet," he announced, bringing up a holographic display of a lush blue-green world. "I'm proposing a joint colonization mission, humans and Chalnoth working together to build a new home, and I want you two to be part of it." Noah and Pryler exchanged glances, their minds buzzing with shared thoughts and emotions. The prospect of exploring a new world, of pushing the boundaries of their hybrid abilities, was thrilling. "There's more," Thrax continued, his voice taking on a serious tone. "We've detected some concerning activities. A group opposed to our progress has been sabotaging research facilities. We believe they may be planning something bigger." Noah felt a surge of protective instinct wash over him. "What can we do to help?" Thrax's eyes glimmered with approval. "We're forming a special task force to deal with these extremists. With your unique abilities, you'd be invaluable assets. Of course, you'll need training." As Noah and Pryler nodded their agreement, a sharp beep emanated from Thrax's communication device. The ambassador's expression shifted to one of shock as he listened to the message. "It seems," he said slowly, "that we've received a transmission. From deep space, whatever happened during the mating crisis, it didn't go unnoticed." Noah and Pryler stood in stunned silence, the weight of this new revelation settling over them. They had thought they were at the forefront of a new era for their two species. Now, it seemed, they might be at the dawn of something even greater, a new chapter in the cosmic story of life itself. As alarms began to sound throughout the facility, signaling the beginning of their training and the start of a new mission, Noah and Pryler clasped hands. Whatever challenges lay ahead, extremists, alien contacts, or the unknown dangers of a new world, they would face them together, pioneers of a new hybrid future. The alarms blaring through the facility marked the beginning of Noah and Pryler's new chapter. As they rushed to their first briefing, the weight of their newfound responsibilities settled upon them. Ambassador Thrax stood at the head of a circular table, his multiple eyes scanning the assembled team. "We've received intelligence on a Purist cell operating in the industrial district," he announced, activating a holographic map. "Your mission is to infiltrate and dismantle their operation." Noah felt a surge of adrenaline, his enhanced physiology responding to the impending challenge. He glanced at Pryler, sensing her mix of excitement and apprehension through their telepathic bond. As they geared up for the mission, Dr. Verne approached them, his face etched with concern. "Remember, your hybrid biology gives you an edge, but it also makes you targets. Be careful out there." The team moved swiftly through the shadowy streets of New Terra's industrial zone. Noah's heightened senses picked up the faintest sounds and smells, guiding them towards their objective. Pryler's violet skin seemed to shimmer in the low light, her body instinctively adapting to their surroundings. They arrived at a nondescript warehouse, its exterior belying the hive of activity within. Noah closed his eyes, focusing his newly developed abilities. "I can sense 13 individuals inside," he whispered to the team. With practiced precision, they breached the building. The element of surprise gave them a crucial advantage as they swiftly subdued the purest operatives. Noah found himself moving with inhuman speed and agility, his body responding to threats before his mind fully processed them. As the dust settled, Prylar discovered a hidden laboratory. "Noah, look at this!" she called, her voice tight with concern. Rows of vials filled with an iridescent liquid lined the shelves, along with stacks of data pads filled with complex formulas. Before they could investigate further, a commotion outside alerted them to a fleeing suspect. Noah sprinted after the figure, his enhanced muscles propelling him forward at an astonishing pace. He tackled the escapee, rolling to a stop in a dimly lit alley. As Noah pulled the suspect to their feet, he found himself face to face with a familiar visage. "Counselor Kane," he breathed, recognizing the politician who had voiced his concerns about the hybridization process. Kane's eyes blazed with hatred. "You're an abomination," he spat. "You and your kind will be the death of humanity." As Noah secured Kane for transport, Prylar's voice echoed in his mind. "Noah, the scientists are here. They found something disturbing." Back at the New Terra Advanced Medical Center, Dr. Verne and Dr. Powell huddled over the confiscated samples, their faces grave. "It's worse than we thought," Dr. Verne explained to Noah and Prylar. "The purists have isolated specific aspects of the hybrid biology. They're trying to weaponize it." Dr. Powell pulled up a holographic model of a molecule. This compound, if perfected, could selectively target and alter the physiology of either humans or Chalnoth. It could potentially reverse the hybridization process or cause severe biological disruptions. The implications hit Noah like a physical blow. Everything they had worked for, the future of human-Chalnoth relations, hung in the balance. He felt Prylar's hand slip into his, their shared concern flowing through their bond. Ambassador Thrax called an emergency meeting, gathering human and Chalnoth authorities. "We must act swiftly," he declared. "A joint task force will be formed to track down the remaining purist cells and destroy all traces of this weaponized compound." Noah and Prylar found themselves at the center of this new initiative, their unique abilities making them invaluable assets. They spent the next weeks leading raids across New Terra, from crowded city centers to remote outposts where purists had established hidden laboratories. During one such mission, they encountered unexpected resistance. As they breached a fortified purist facility, they were met with a barrage of energy weapons fire. Noah felt a searing pain in his side as a blast grazed him, but his hybrid physiology quickly began to heal the wound. Prylar moved with fluid grace, her combat training enhanced by her Chalnoth heritage. They fought their way through the facility, securing vital data and destroying equipment. But as they reached the main laboratory, they faced an obstacle they hadn't anticipated. Victor Kane stood before them, his body pulsing with an unnatural energy. "Surprised," he sneered. "Your precious hybrid biology has its uses after all." Before Noah could react, Kane moved with inhuman speed, landing a devastating blow on Prylar. She crumpled to the ground, her violet skin paling alarmingly. Noah felt a surge of panic through their bond as Prylar's consciousness began to fade. Rage and fear fueled Noah as he engaged Kane in combat. Their enhanced bodies moved in a blur of motion, the air crackling with the energy of their clash. Noah felt something awakening within him, a wellspring of power he hadn't known existed. With a primal roar, Noah unleashed a burst of energy that sent Kane flying across the room. The politician crashed through equipment and lay still, but Noah's focus was entirely on Prylar. He rushed to her side, cradling her limp form. Instinctively, Noah placed his hands on Prylar's wounds. He felt the energy flowing through him, into her, knitting flesh and stabilizing her vital functions. Prylar's eyes fluttered open, meeting Noah's gaze with a mixture of wonder and gratitude. As they caught their breath, alarms began to blare throughout the facility. Noah looked up to see Kane's unconscious form surrounded by a shimmering energy field, some kind of emergency teleportation device. Before they could react, Kane vanished, leaving behind only the wreckage of the lab. Noah helped Prylar to her feet, both of them marveling at the new depths of their abilities they had just discovered. As they made their way out of the facility, Noah's communicator chirped with an urgent message from Dr. Zaxelith. "We've deciphered more of the deep space transmission," the scientist's excited voice came through. "You need to hear this immediately. It changes everything." Noah and Prylar exchanged glances, sensing that their world was about to shift once again. As they hurried back to headquarters, the city of New Terra hummed around them, unaware of the cosmic developments unfolding in their midst. The next phase of their journey was just beginning, and the fate of 2 species, perhaps even more, hung in the balance. Balance. The urgency in Dr. Zaxelith's voice spurred Noah and Prylar into action. As they rushed back to headquarters, the bustling streets of New Terra blurred around them, their enhanced physiology allowing them to move at incredible speeds. Arriving at the research facility, they found Dr. Zaxelith hunched over a complex array of holographic displays, his multiple eyes darting between streams of data. "Ah, you're here," he said, not looking up from his work. "The deep space transmission, it's from a species called the Etheri. They've been watching us, observing the hybridization process." Before Noah could process this information, alarms blared throughout the facility. Ambassador Thrax's voice came over the intercom, tight with tension. "All personnel to battle stations. We have a situation at the New Terra Spaceport." Noah and Prylar exchanged a glance, their telepathic bond humming with shared perseverance. They sprinted to the command center, where a holographic display showed chaos unfolding at the spaceport. Victor Kane's forces were launching a full-scale attack on the facility. "The Harmony mission," Prylar gasped, recognizing the spacecraft meant to carry the first joint human Chalnoth colonization team. Ambassador Thrax turned to them, his expression grim. "We need you two to lead the defense. Your hybrid abilities make you our best hope of stopping Kane and protecting the civilians." Without hesitation, Noah and Prylar headed for the spaceport. As they approached, the scale of the attack became clear. Explosions rocked the structure, and streams of panicked civilians fled the area. Noah's enhanced senses picked up the acrid smell of smoke and the rapid heartbeats of those around him. They moved through the chaos with practiced efficiency, their hybrid abilities working in perfect synchronization. Noah's strength and speed allowed him to clear debris and escort civilians to safety, while Prylar's agility and sharper senses helped her anticipate and neutralize threats before they could cause harm. As they pushed deeper into the spaceport, they encountered increasingly heavy resistance. Kane's forces, armed with advanced weaponry, put up a fierce fight. Noah and Prylar moved as one, their shared telepathic link allowing them to coordinate their actions without a word. Noah ducked under a hail of energy blasts, rolling to cover behind a damaged shuttle. Prylar leapt over him, her violet skin shimmering as she twisted in midair, firing off precise shots that disabled 3 of Kane's soldiers in rapid succession. They fought their way to the main launch bay, where they found Victor Kane waiting for them. The politician's body pulsed with an unnatural energy, his eyes wild with a mix of hatred and triumph. "You're too late," Kane snarled, his voice distorted by the compound coursing through his veins. "The pure future of humanity is at hand." He charged at them with inhuman speed, his fist connecting with Noah's jaw with bone-crushing force. Noah staggered back, tasting blood, but years of training kicked in. He ducked under Kane's next swing, using the man's momentum to flip him over his shoulder. Prylar joined the fray, her Chalnoth heritage giving her a fluid grace as she engaged Kane in hand-to-hand combat. The 3 of them moved in a blur of motion, their enhanced abilities pushing the limits of what should have been physically possible. The fight raged across the launch bay, causing significant damage to the surrounding equipment. Alarms blared as systems went offline, threatening the launch of the Harmony mission. As they fought, Noah became aware of a persistent beeping from his communicator. In a brief lull in the combat, he activated it to hear Dr. Verne's excited voice. "Noah, we've done it. We've developed a counteragent to Kane's enhancements, but it needs to be administered directly to him." Noah's mind raced, formulating a plan. He reached out to Prylar through their telepathic link, sharing the information and his strategy in an instant. She nodded, her eyes narrowing in willpower. They launched into a series of coordinated attacks, herding Kane towards a more confined area of the launch bay. Prylar used her superior agility to keep Kane distracted, weaving in and out of his reach, while Noah maneuvered behind him. In a moment of perfect synchronization, Prylar dropped low, sweeping Kane's legs out from under him. As he stumbled, Noah lunged forward, driving the counteragent into Kane's neck. Kane roared in fury, lashing out with a wild backhand that sent Noah flying across the room. But his enhanced abilities were already beginning to fade. His movements became slower, less coordinated. Realizing his defeat was imminent, Kane pulled out a small device. "If I can't have my pure future," he growled, "then none of us will." He activated the device, which began to emit a high-pitched whine. Noah's enhanced senses picked up the rapid spread of particles in the air, the weaponized compound, designed to alter the physiology of everyone in the spaceport. He locked eyes with Prylar, both of them understanding the gravity of the situation. Without a word, they moved together, their hands clasping. They focused their hybrid physiology in a way they never had before, drawing on the deepest reserves of their shared power. Energy crackled between them, forming a shimmering field that expanded outward. The strain was immense. Noah felt as if every cell in his body was on fire. Through their bond, he could feel Prylar's pain matching his own. But they held on, pushing the energy field further, containing and neutralizing the compound. As the last of the weaponized particles dissipated, Noah and Prylar collapsed to the ground, their bodies pushed far beyond their limits. The world around them faded to black as medical teams rushed in, their voices muffled and distant. Noah drifted in and out of consciousness, aware only of the steady presence of Prylar's mind linked with his own. Time seemed to lose all meaning as they hovered between waking and dreaming. When Noah finally opened his eyes, he found himself in the medical bay, surrounded by beeping monitors and concerned faces. Dr. Verne stood over him, relief evident in his expression. "Welcome back," the doctor said softly. "You two gave us quite a scare." Noah turned his head, his eyes seeking out Prylar. She lay in the adjacent bed, her violet skin pale but her chest rising and falling steadily. As if sensing his gaze, her eyes fluttered open, meeting his with a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. Before Noah could speak, Ambassador Thrax entered the room, his normally composed demeanor betraying hints of excitement. "You've done it," he announced. "Kane is in custody, his forces have been neutralized, and the Harmony mission is ready to proceed as planned." Noah tried to sit up, wincing at the effort. "The mission, it's still happening?" Thrax's multiple eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of strong emotion in Chalnoth. "Not only is it happening, but the Council has unanimously voted to have you and Prylar lead it. You'll be the first to set foot on our new world." As the implications of this news sank in, Noah felt a surge of energy coursing through him. He reached out, taking Prylar's hand in his own. Their shared gaze spoke volumes, of challenges overcome, of a bond forged in adversity, and of the promise of new horizons yet to be explored. The journey to Harmony would begin soon, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of two species united. And beyond that, the mysterious Etheri waited, their message a tantalizing glimpse of an even greater destiny. As Noah and Prylar began their recovery, preparing for the mission ahead, they knew that this was just the beginning of an adventure that would reshape the very fabric of their existence.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.